Hi there. Welcome back to the Dog Days of Podcasting Challenge, day number 23, on the One Idjit's Thoughts on podcast. I am that Idjit, Paul Mackey. It was a fairly ordinary day. Let's see. Freshman students were moving into dorms today up on the UMD campus. And since my workplace is on that campus, it was a bit busier in the area than normal. Tomorrow, I gather all the rest of the classes can join in, but how many upperclassmen live in dorms these days? I don't really know. But I suppose, as the parent of a high school senior, I'll probably find out relatively soon. But for now, we can look at an episode of the Rockford Files. This episode is called Tall Woman in a Red Wagon, and it originally broadcast on October 11th of 1974. A brief summary. After an opening in which Rockford and a couple of hired workers dig up an empty coffin, and Rockford gets shot, apparently in the head, the episode then flashes back. Rockford has been hired by a woman, Sandra, to find her friend Charlotte, the titular tall woman. When they are told Charlotte is dead, Sandra can't let it go. It turns out the whole case revolves around a significant amount of money, possibly stolen, from a dead mobster Charlotte had dated. The trouble with the money was bad enough for Charlotte to fake her own death, and the search for the money got Jim shot.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
It's Lori at the trailer park. A space opened up. Do you want me to save it, or the cop's going to let you stay where you are?
All right, and who is? Sean Barbara Allen plays Sandra, Jim's client. I might have passed right on to another person, but I saw the title of the movie she earned a Golden Globe nomination for in 1973, and I had to go for it. If you've lived in Duluth, Minnesota for any length of time, you eventually hear the title or read it somewhere. It's even on a mural at the North Shore Theater downtown. You'll Like My Mother, starring Patty Duke and Richard Thomas, and in a supporting role, Sean Barbara Allen, who apparently dated Richard Thomas for a number of years afterwards. This movie was shot at the Glen Sheen Mansion here in Duluth. Sean was another one of those character actors that popped up in all manner of television and occasional movies. She appeared in Alias Smith and Jones, Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Columbo, 2 episodes of The Waltons, playing Richard Thomas's love interest, Kojak, Ironside, Adam 12, Hawaii Five-0, The Incredible Hulk, and Beretta, for which she also wrote an episode, but not the one she performed in. She rounded out her acting career on L.A. Law in 1990, and then retired in favor of motherhood and has since worked as a writer, mostly short fiction and magazine pieces. This aged poorly. There's a whole section near the end of the flashback, which is pretty much the whole episode, where the two women discuss how Charlotte can attract all the eligible bachelors within range so Sandra can pick out a good one. Totally 70s. I'm not sure if it is indeed totally 70s, but I had to shout out Rockford's business card printing press he had in his car. Sure, you can more easily fake a business card today, no fussy ink and knife, etc., but could you do it on the fly in your car? All right, artifactoids. The hotel and restaurant where they hear of Charlotte's alleged death was Fred Harvey's Ranch House Inn in Valencia, Santa Clarita. This was built in 1970, following the construction in 1965 of the successful Ranch House Coffee Shop and Restaurant. All of it predated the opening of Magic Mountain Theme Park in 1971, but there's a roadside visible in the show that shows the exit off of I-5 behind them to Magic Mountain Parkway. The theme park was basically just behind them, though many of the landmark attractions that might have been visible were still a few years off in 1974 when this was shot. You could have visited this place until fairly recently. The buildings were knocked down in order to build 2 smaller and more modern hotels in 2019. Also, it amused me that I recognized a Bell telephone van flashing by behind them as they arrived at the train station just by its color scheme. I have absolutely no reason I can think of to remember this, but it's exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for when I watch older television. What worked? This cracked along well, with plenty of twists, and wisely left the mobster's men mostly to the sidelines. It had Rockford working his wits to con and cajole all the details needed to narrow down what was going on, and it had him telling tales to all involved in the end, even though he didn't have the answer at all. What didn't work? As much as I said I appreciated the loose end of what happened to the money, I didn't as much like the open-endedness of Charlotte's story. I also found myself wishing Stoner and Sandra each could return one day for some reason, but IMDb has already told me they will not. Next time is an episode titled This Case is Closed, and just FYI, it will be the first episode of the Rockford Files that I've never seen before. Like I said when I was starting out, I didn't necessarily watch these first 6 episodes closely, and it has turned out that I didn't remember any of them all that clearly. But from here on out, this will all be new to me. Happy hunting! You have been listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, produced by Paul Mackey in association with QuadrupleZ.com. Theme music is Too Good by Jack Mangan and is used by permission from him. If you would like to hear other podcasts by me, you might try the Ghostlight podcast, a completed introcast about the TV series Slings and Arrows, or Idjitcast, an introcast for the TV series Supernatural. Both can be found on fine podcasting listening software everywhere or at QuadrupleZ.com. I don't know which Los Angeles street they would shoot that on, but it definitely looked believably like a 1970s Minneapolis street when they pulled up in front of that house.